You possess a level of ambition that most people never allow themselves to voice. You can see the success, the finished project, and the life you want with a clarity that makes it feel almost tangible. And yet, while the world moves forward around you, your physical reality remains entirely still. You are stuck in a loop of planning to start while never actually moving. The reason you feel so exhausted despite that lack of action is that your brain is never truly at rest. It is constantly running a second tab in the background, an involuntary monitoring system that tracks social dynamics, hidden subtexts, and the emotional temperature of every room you enter. You aren't just having a conversation, you are narrating the social mechanics of it in real time. This creates a deep internal friction. One part of your mind is dreaming of massive achievements, but another part is fixated on avoiding the discomfort and uncertainty that comes with trying. Because you see so many variables and potential pitfalls, your brain views the work not as a goal, but as a threat to your current safety. You likely view your high standards and your ability to read people as your greatest strengths. But in this state, they are actually your primary drains. When every interaction carries a low hum of analysis that you cannot turn off, you are consuming the very cognitive resources you need to actually execute your ideas. What feels like laziness is actually a sophisticated defense mechanism. Your brain is terrified of failure, so it uses deep intellectual analysis as a disguise. By overthinking every detail, it successfully keeps you on the sidelines, where you are safe from the reality of being imperfect. This habit of intense observation often begins as a practical necessity. In environments where moods are unpredictable or the atmosphere is unstable, reading the room isn't a social nicety, it's how you navigate the day. You learned very early that being exceptionally attuned to cell cues was a way to protect yourself. Psychology identifies this state as hypervigilance. It is a biological survival mechanism where the nervous system stays locked in a scanning mode, looking for external shifts or threats long before they actually manifest. The problem is that this mechanism eventually starts to function like a broken smoke detector. It was originally designed to warn you about a fire, but now it goes off every time you make toast. It interprets harmless daily ambiguities, like a short email or a slight shift in a friend's tone, as a signal of an impending emergency. While your environment may have changed and the immediate threats have vanished, your internal alarm system never received the update. You are left in a state of chronic fatigue, exhausted by the effort of guarding against imaginary dangers that your brain refuses to stop scanning for. This process is driven by metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. For the overly aware, this isn't an occasional tool, it's a perpetual loop. You don't just feel an emotion, you immediately step outside of it to analyze why it's there, whether it's valid, and what it says about you. Each layer of self-judgment and analysis consumes a massive amount of cognitive energy. As these rings multiply, they compress your original intent, quietly consuming your focus until the energy you needed for physical action has been entirely spent on internal surveillance. This creates an illusion of control. Your brain convinces you that if you can just predict every variable and account for every possible failure, you will finally be safe enough to start. Perfectionism is just a strategy to delay the moment of effort indefinitely. You might find yourself consuming endless productivity content, searching for the perfect system. This feels like progress, but it's actually another form of avoidance. It provides a hit of dopamine that tricks your brain into thinking you are moving forward, while you are actually just finding more sophisticated ways to stay still. Waiting for the perfect moment is a biological survival tactic. By never actually starting, you ensure that your ego is never tested by the reality of a mediocre first draft or a public mistake. You have to accept a difficult truth. Having deep awareness is not the same thing as having wisdom. Seeing behind the curtain of human behavior is interesting, but insight without execution is just an empty simulation. The first shift is learning selective perception. Just because you notice a shift in someone's mood or a subtext in the conversation doesn't mean you have to interpret it or act on it. You can acknowledge the data and then choose to let it pass through your awareness without letting it lodge in your mind. You break the cycle by choosing to produce imperfect work. Commit to 15 minutes of a task even if you know the result will be terrible. By doing the work despite the internal friction, You are teaching your brain that this specific discomfort is not a signal of danger. Because your brain is hyper-responsive to cues, you have to physically remove distractions from your environment. Do not rely on willpower to ignore your phone or a cluttered room. By simplifying your physical space, you reduce the number of decisions your brain has to make, leaving that energy for your actual goals. Challenge the urge to predict every outcome from the sidelines. Your intelligence has been used to simulate failure, so you can stay prepared, but those simulations are often just sophisticated forms of assumption. The mind simulation will always feel safer than reality, but it doesn't produce results. The work begins when you stop watching the clock and start participating in the day. You don't need to understand every layer of the world to move through it. You just have to start.